doing that every day and working in a restaurant, I just, got a little burned out. I didn't love it enough to make it a full-on career and, do it for the rest of my life. And
do you still bake at the house, or?
Oh yeah, I got a sourdough starter and everything that goes,
Okay.
and try to bake bread, at least once a week or once every other week.
Yeah. What about chocolate? You still doing desserts or? No?
Not so much. I mean, it is quite an involved process. My kitchen's kind of small, and so it's a lot of, I do enjoy it. So the company that I worked for is called, I work for two companies down in the Bay Area. One is Cho.
Okay.
And I was working on the, like their, what was it called, the bean team, doing the R&D stuff. So we would take beans that would be from farms that we're working closely with and make chocolate out of that to taste it, see if we wanted to buy a batch and that kind of thing. So that was really interesting. And then I also started their confectionery program there as well, making little bite-sized morsels and that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. It's funny because are we rolling?
We are, actually, cool. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people and I try to tell young cooks and young chefs, I'm like, listen, doing Iron Chef at your house for your family is different than running a restaurant.
Oh, 100%.
It's a different world. And it's so funny because I tell people all the time, just because you're a good chef doesn't mean you're a good home cook. Mm-hmm. It's two different worlds. And I learned the hard way during COVID when I was like, when we weren't working in the kitchens. And it's funny trying to set up the house, like, here's a good example. It's like I have kids, and my wife, and when you're cooking, professionally in a home environment and like somebody licks the spatula, for example, and it's like that would never happen in a professional kitchen. But it's like there's just such a big difference, and I try to explain this to everybody, but like I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. I love the restaurant business, but man, it's hard.
It is.
And I question my sanity all the time.
Oh, I think everybody who works in it does, right?
And it's I had this conversation with my wife the other day. We were talking about it, and it's like, because I'm going to be 40 this year,
Okay.
And so it's funny because 40 is that's like a,
yeah,
it's
I'm pushing it myself.
Yeah. And it's just like, I came to the realization, I made a pact with my wife. I said, listen, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to waste 1 second on anything that doesn't set my soul on fire. And it's like, and that's the restaurant business. And it's like, a good example of that is, it's so tough. It's so hard. It's so high risk. It's so high turnover. It's all the odds are against you. But I tell people, and it's just like with dining at Ember, it's like you create these magical moments and these experiences, that are just make it all worth it.
Absolutely. There's such passion behind it. Like, when you see a successful restaurant business and restaurateur, like they're bringing this other level of care and love and ferocity even to it a lot of times.
And it's so funny because like at Ember, that used to be the Signal Grill. I don't know if you remember the Signal Grill, but the kitchen was all closed off. And I remember having a conversation with the architect, like, I want it wide open. Like, I want you to be able to see right back into what we're doing. We actually had the hoods changed, the orientation of the hoods changed, so that way you could see the stage. And it's funny because we have a chef's table in the front, and it's really important to me to see, like, some people don't want to see what's going on back there.
Right.
But when you're looking in the Ember kitchen and you see heads down, people focused, they're cooking, it's with intent. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think there's such a love for the craft that a lot of people don't see, and I always say, it's gut wrenching because it's like, for me, a lot of people don't understand like how hard it is to run a restaurant and to try to keep the flame going. And like, in all my chefs in California, sorry, listeners, I lived and worked in California, so but I've been in the Bitterroot for 2 years now. And it's funny because that question constantly comes up, chef, why Montana? Why on the earth would you want to go to Montana when you've cooked in New York, DC, Miami, Palm Beach, Las Vegas, Chicago, California, some of the best restaurants? And it's so funny because I always say the same thing. Like, in California, I worked for Wolfgang Puck, Charlie Palmer, Saison Group, Joshua Skeens, a lot of really good chefs in California. And I knew where to get all the good produce and all the good proteins from.
Right.
And I just knew, you name it, like in San Francisco, like like if you go to San Francisco and you go to all the fine dining restaurants, all the chefs are using the same things. Mm-hmm. We're all using this. Like, it's abalone, you'll see asparagus from Delta, you'll see, you'll just, like, we know where all the good stuff is. Same thing with Santa Monica, like Santa Monica's farmers market. And for me, I wanted to come to a place that was undiscovered. And I know it's high risk. population of Hamilton is like 5,000, 8,000.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, the Bitterroot's getting bigger, and some people disagree with that, but some people are like amped up, and it's really good to have a restaurant here that actually like where it's like we don't play games, like it's high standard. You're coming and we want to make a really good experience, but it's just funny because it's a lot of people don't understand when there's not butts and seats, the restaurant's failing.
Right.
And it's like when you're not like it's a monster, and it's just like for me, it's like I tell myself all the time, like, how can we make it work? How can we make the restaurant business sustainable? How can we take care of our future chefs? How can we take care of front of the house so they're compensated correctly and they actually make a career out of it? What am I doing to mentor the next level of chefs? Like, it's all so hard, and a lot of people don't see like what happens behind the scenes. Another prime example of that is like here in Montana, it's hard to get good food. And so I rely on vertical integration and really focusing on all these ranchers and farmers of the Bitterroot. But I'll be honest, it makes it twice as hard. It's more expensive, and it's just harder to get. It's inconsistent, but I think especially with Ember now and Grano, like we over this last year we had a farmers appreciation dinner. And it was really nice to see a full circle moment of like, no, we want to cook for you. We want to take your products and we want to show you how we highlight them on our menus. And so I know going into this spring and summer that these farmers and ranchers are going to be way more amped up to work with us. You know what I'm saying?
That's great.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, we have Western Montana growers, and the first time I met them, I said, listen, you send that list every week. Like if you have overage or if you have anything in stock you can't move, we will preserve it. We will do whatever it takes to try to help you out. It's like a partnership almost because, for me, it's just super important. A lot of people don't understand, but like and I know I'm going on a tangent, but like I'm super passionate about it.
Good.
When I first came to Hamilton, I did my tasting, and when I came back and I was going, the beautiful farmers market. By the way, downtown Hamilton farmers market, arguably one of the best things in the world. Like I've been to a lot of farmers markets, and Hamilton farmers market is special. But you go to any of the restaurants on Main Street, nobody's using anything from it. Like it blows my mind,
Right.
And so I made it a point, like you'll see. Mark my word, you will see us chefs from Ember, from Grano, going down to the farmer's market that day, picking up things from the farmers. That's what we're cooking with. That's what we use in the restaurants, because it's really important for me to, as the chef, I have to create that relationship between consumer and the people that make our food, and it's come to fruition. I mean, look at the chickens, look at the egg, like how the flu is happening, like, the influenza for the birds, like the eggs are skyrocketing. Well, you know what? We've been using Buck and Dave's in Corvallis this whole time. And it's been consistent. Like people don't know this, but we don't serve egg dishes at Ember, but we use local eggs for all of our other ingredients in our recipes. And just like I told, Dave and Buck, or Buck and Dave's, I told him, I was like, it's super important for us to use local. Let's work on a system that works for everybody, and that came to fruition. It's like one of the biggest things that I think, especially in this town, is that, people want a good place to eat, but also, I will say it's super hard because they're not used to certain things, certain ingredients, certain techniques. And it's like, it's been so challenging, but also so rewarding for especially people that have like anniversaries or that I see on a regular basis. And it's just awesome, man. And I hope, I should probably do an introduction, huh? Like a little bit. No, we're just freestyle.
We're just freestyling it.
Yeah.
I always write an introduction at the beginning.
Cool. Yeah.
But also, I mean, if you want to, kind of give your history as well. Kind of where we started, how you got into
cooking,
cooking and all that.
Yeah, I got a great little snippet. So basically, I knew I wanted to be a chef when I was really young, and it was to my benefit because I'll tell you what, I hit the ground. I never turned around. I never even looked at any other type of career at all. And so what was great is at like 15 years old, I grew up in the restaurant business pretty much.
Okay.
My father, I used to go see my father on the weekends, and he was a bartender/manager. And I would, when we got old enough, we started doing stuff. You can't be in a restaurant and not do. So we were sweeping the floor.
Free labor.
Yeah, we were busting the tables. We were doing it all. Like, and then as a young kid, I was just so intrigued by the kitchen and the yelling and the screaming and the fire and the flames. And I was just like, man, it's cool to be back there. But I knew it was like a no cross zone, and it made me want to go in there even more. And to make a long story short, somebody called out on a Saturday night, somebody didn't show up, and I slid right in. Like, and I was on a fry station, but I was so happy, and I've never felt this happy in my whole life. And I played sports, and but I felt it, and I remember just being so addicted. Like, this is amazing. I mean, I was 14 and like just happy to be a part of the team to clean the fryer. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, who wants to clean a fryer? Man,
right?
I made sure I made sure it was spotless. And,
Awesome.
You know, and it was funny because like, you know, every Saturday it was like, you know, I started prepping, I started doing other things, and I just fell in love. And I remember I told my father I wanted to be a chef at 16. And I'm not going to lie, I hate to age myself, but, you know, at first it was like, well, why do you want to do that? Because, you know, being a chef or being a cook is not a really good career or profession back in the early, you know, I would say the 90s, I'd say, 90s, early 2000s. And so, but it was just like, this is what I want to do, you know, like, and so I just never looked back. And I went to culinary school. So I grew up in Northern Virginia, DC area, and then I moved down to Florida, and I went to culinary school there. I started the restaurant business super, super fast, you know, and I have to say it was like a double-edged sword, because what comes with the restaurant business? Drugs, alcohol, you know, just, I mean, a lot of stuff that runs rampant through the restaurant business. But thankfully, I learned my lesson very quickly when I got a DUI before I was 21. And, you know, I was able to get on a straightened path. But, you know, it was funny because in the restaurant business, and a lot of people know this, but, you know, it's socially acceptable to drink and use drugs and all that stuff. And like now it's tightening up. But back when you're an 18-year-old kid, you just go with the flow.
Exactly. Right.
And so, but thank God I like had a direction, and I knew I wanted to be a chef. So I always had something to latch onto. So I went to the Florida Culinary Institute. I went for a dual associate, so culinary and baking and pastry. And then I did a like kind of an apprenticeship, is what I like to call it, at the Breakers Resort. And I was there for 5 years, and then went to Cafe Balud, which is Daniel Balud's restaurant on Palm Beach. And that changed my life. It actually, and it's crazy. And I'm gonna continue to say this. I learned more in that restaurant in the 6 to 8, 12 months I worked there than I did at the Breakers Resort. You know, the Breakers taught me professionalism, and I learned, but it was a hotel, and that's a different ball game. And I try to tell people that, but man, I went to this little French restaurant, and it was just, I mean, it was the big leagues. That's what I felt like. And so at that point, I knew I wanted to be a fine dining chef. And thankfully, the culinary school that I went to, the chef instructor that was doing the resumes, you know, he gave me the best advice I'd ever heard in my life. Because when I first went to culinary school, I was working at Cheesecake Factory, you know, because they were paying the most. And he's like, you don't want to work there as a chef. If you want to be a chef, you need to learn from other chefs. And he's like, you need to figure out what type of chef you want to be. Cheesecake Factory is short order cooking. It's not like that. Yeah, they make things from scratch, but you need to get out of that restaurant. And I'm like, man, but I'm making good money. And he's like, it doesn't matter. I didn't know what he was talking about until later on in my career. And so he got me the job at the Breakers Resort. So I went there, and that's when I started doing the apprenticeship. And then I went to Cafe Balud. And then after that, I knew I wanted to be a fine dining chef. So I started, you know, putting my feelers out there. We went to New York and DC and ate at all the top Michelin restaurants, me and my girlfriend at the time, now wife. And, you know, from Florida, we went to Las Vegas. At Las Vegas, I was working at Oriel. I worked at the Wolfgang Puck Group. And then I decided I wanted to do a 3 Michelin star restaurant. And so I dropped everything I was doing and moved to Chicago to work with the Alinea Group, which was life-changing. And, you know, I tell everybody all the time, like, I say this, like, I think, you know, I did a stage there. So I was staging all over the place. I was staging in New York and DC to see where I wanted to land. And in Chicago, I staged at True, Alinea, and there was one other restaurant I forgot. But LTO. Yeah, LTO, when Laurent Gras was there. Crazy. But it was Alinea changed my life. When I remember when I walked in that back door, like I thought I was, you know, a good cook. I thought I was a great, you know, I was on the right path. I used to outcook everybody. I was very ego driven. I walked in that kitchen, and it was just like everybody's better than me. Every single person was better than me. I staged for 2 days, and no lie, I tell you right now, like it changed my perception on how a kitchen is run. And I knew I wanted to work there, but unfortunately, I just couldn't float minimum wage. You know what I mean? Like I just couldn't do it. But then 2 years later, after I had some savings, and I actually, because I was a sous chef I got promoted to a sous chef in Las Vegas before I went to Alinea, right? So I had some change in my pocket. But anyway, I go to Alinea. I go to Chicago. I love Chicago. It's a great city. And I'll tell you what, in that year, it kind of changed my perception on, you know, how like that high level of execution. And, you know, it was a great time there, but unfortunately it was just unsustainable for me. You know, I mean, I drained my savings. My lease was coming up. I couldn't even survive, man. I was eating off like, it's just is what it is. And I remember like talking to the chef. Now I know, like, if I could go back, and I want to give advice to any young cooks out there, don't waste your time talking to the kitchen manager or the chef. Talk straight to the owner. Like, I remember asking the executive chef who had just got promoted. I said, "Listen, bro, like, I can't afford to live here anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, can I get at least a bump? I need to make, X amount of dollars to survive, like," and he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, but like, I think I'm worth it. You don't think I'm worth it? And like, I just, I've been able to work 2 stations, I've just like, I thought I was doing the best I can. I gave it my all, and unfortunately there's just this thing, like, it was just like this ego thing that I don't know if he was just because he was just promoted or, but the reality is like, I mean, it was rough, man. I was asking my brother to cover my rent. Like, dude, I was just unsustainable for me. I didn't have a choice. And so now if I could have went back, I would have went straight to Chef Ackett's himself and said, "Hey, chef, this is where I'm at. Like, I just need $3 more an hour and I can still work here and I will put in my all." You know what I mean? Like, I'll give it all. I'll put everything on here. I'll do whatever you want. And it was funny because then I ended up leaving and I went back to Vegas and I was the chef de cuisine at Spago in Las Vegas when they were at Caesar's Palace. And Wolfgang Puck kind of like really working for that group was excellent. And so I worked for Wolfgang Puck for a long time, for about 6 years. I went from Las Vegas to Los Angeles to work to be the chef de cuisine at Hotel Bel Air. And then I went to, after Hotel Bel Air, I went to be the executive chef for the Saison Group on their 2 new Angler projects. So they had 2 restaurants opening up. So I'll tell you what, man, it's been a long journey, but I think after Saison, it was so Saison, if everybody knows, is a 3 Michelin star restaurant in San Francisco, and they were opening up 2 more casual style restaurants, still a Michelin star restaurant, but that was excellent. And unfortunately, that kind of fell apart. But while I was up in the Bay Area, I was able to impress some tech companies, some tech investors, and basically I got summons to do this really high-end party in Silicon Valley, and just to kind of like, shoot it straight. It's a tech company that wanted an executive chef that had Michelin experience to be able to create like, 3-4 course menus in a private / business residence, like kind of like the White House. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not a private chef." And they're like, "Well, this isn't really a private chef job." And I'm like, "That's what it seems like to me." But it was like, no, it's not. It's think of it like a boutique hotel. And man, they were right, because it's different when you're cooking for profit and you're cooking for pleasure, right? Like, dude, I was like, buying whatever I wanted, setting up whatever I wanted. It was awesome. But unfortunately, what ended up happening was, this COVID hit, right? So 2020, and then it just like, then I started cooking for safety, right? And so it's just like, I remember at that time, it was like, man, I'm making great money, like really good money. And it was funny because the tech company decided to just get up and move and go to the other offices in Singapore and London. And so I was just left like stranded, and I realized I wasn't like feeling fulfilled, and so I started creating content on social media, right? So Chef Authorized was born. I started duetting, and it was funny because I was creating content for, shout out to Gary V, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have continued. like nobody gives him enough credit. I know he's fallen off, but man, I love you, Gary V. You changed my perspective on posting on social media, because I had posted like 44 videos straight, no views, like 2 views, 3 views. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give it one more shot. I sit down in my bathroom at work and I'm duetting a steak video. It goes viral. And it wasn't like the sound is horrible. The lighting was horrible. It wasn't even, it goes bananas. And then so I just kept on repeating that. And then finally I just got the bug and I just started creating content. And then basically, it was funny because I started to like realize like, man, social media is important and personal brand is important. And so that's why, like 2 years later, I kind of realized like, okay, but what do I actually want to do as a chef? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, I don't create the content that I used to create, like reacting to videos and all these recipe videos, because deep down inside, I'm a restaurateur and I am a chef and I'm a chef's chef, right? So like in Los Angeles and San Francisco, like I'm the chef de cuisine. Like, people know that I'm just a grinder. I do this. So I was never really put on the pedestal. And so for me, I wanted to do something that could create the best, the most epic legacy in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like by starting a restaurant group, working with some partners to really focus on vertical integration, a destination spot. And I consider coming to the Bitterroot Valley as like, and I know this is stretching, but I want to be the French Laundry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like where like, Thomas Keller in 1995, the French Laundry Napa Valley was nothing. And now it's a destination. And it's like, I want the Bitterroot Valley to be like that. That's what I'm shooting for. And I know that's, Thomas Keller's the best, like one of the best chefs in the world. For anybody who doesn't know, he's the top dog. But what he did in the beginning of the French Laundry days, and, I don't know about you, but I used to sleep with that book. Like, you know what I mean? Like straight up, like I'm flipping through that book. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know what fine dining was until I picked up that book.
Yeah. And recipes are amazing.
Yeah. I mean, everything that he does is good. I mean, one of the best experiences of my life was at Per Se in New York City. And, it's just, it was awesome. And so, yeah, I relocate the family to Montana. We start Ember. We start the restaurant group, and we're working very hard on making sure it's sustainable, and we're learning about the off seasons. I'll tell you that. I believe that. That's a tough one, man. It's like nobody talks about that, and it's just, man, I really wish like you had a magic ball and you can tell the future, but it's just like it's non-existent. And so, yeah, so we're here now, and it's awesome. I love Montana. I fell in love with Montana when I first came to Missoula with the old airport. I came, and I don't know, it's just something about the mountains on both sides. Like it was just, dude, the terroir is amazing. And I hate to say this because in California the products they're arguably the best in the United States, but Bitterroot Valley has awesome as well, like top-notch things. And I would say some of the stuff I've tasted here is better than California because they grow all year long.
Yeah.
There's no time the soil's dormant. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's crazy. Like the asparagus, for example, we get asparagus here in Montana for 3 weeks. And then I'm like, I need to talk to this farmer. Like I gotta talk to him because this asparagus is great. But like, you would never think, like, because I came from as a chef, I always thought California asparagus is top notch. It's the best. It's this. But the reality is like this farmer that grows this asparagus here in the Bitterroot, I'm not going to drop his name because I don't want everybody taking it, but he had wild asparagus growing on his property. And so he just doubled down and it's like, okay, I'm going to grow asparagus then.
Nice.
And it tastes excellent. And it's funny because when we explain the dish at Ember, we're like, hey, this is only available for 4 weeks, and that's kind of like, I think that's really unique,
Oh, it makes things super special in that regard. I think that's something in our psyche around food anymore that these things are available all year round. You go to a grocery store, you can get a tomato in January.
Yeah,
it's not really a tomato though, it's just like the representation of a tomato.
I think what's really important, and I know a lot of people, when they shop, they're shopping consciously. They're shopping for price. And one of the things I try to really what I try to really focus on is like, I don't expect everybody to just get local food. I know it's pricey, and I know there's, people, it's hard when you go to Super One and you're like, yeah, this ground beef's only $3, but it's better if you're able to support a local rancher or farmer that has a portion of a beef ready, that can sell to you, because, the ground beef at Super One is from multiple animals.
Yeah.
And it's shipped from somewhere. You don't know where it's coming from. And what I try to tell people, especially like, with the North American Butcher Shop, it's really important that you do support local when you can, because, if we can keep everything in this ecosystem in the Bitterroot Valley, at least in Montana, because a lot of people don't know this. When I first came to, I'm going to tell myself here a little bit. When I first came to Montana, I saw beef everywhere, man. Like, I'm like, dude, beef here, beef there. Oh, dang, there's so much cows here. There's so much cattle here. Like, ridiculous. And then somebody was telling me there's 10 cattle for every one person. And
there are more cows here than people, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And it's crazy to me is I go to Lolo Steakhouse, right? Or not, was it Lolo Steak? Yeah, it was Lolo Steakhouse. And I'm like, hey, what local beef do you have available? And she just looks at me like crazy. She's like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, we don't really have local beef. Let me go ask the chef. And she's like, well, and I was like, well, don't worry about asking the chef. Just go in the walk-in and tell me what the box says, And of course, it's whatever it was, Cisco or US. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's choice Angus. That's from the Midwest.
Sure.
And it's like, I understand now full circle because I've been here for a year, and so I understand, because it's like, but what people don't realize is all the beef in Montana, pretty much 90% of it is shipped out of state, and then we get it back. And so it's like, yeah, we get arguably a better price, but it's just like, all the, like, we need to change the perception and we need to promote more local, right? Like, good example, what Dylan's doing at KK Ranch is amazing.
Yes.
And it is so hard to do what he's doing. And it's like, for me, it's like, man, I do nothing but to support that. You know what I mean?
And they make some amazing stuff too. Their salumi is
and the deli in Missoula is awesome, man. The fries, like, all the food is really good. But I'm telling you right now, I know the struggle. Like, it's harder to use local food compared to just, oh yeah, let's get some spinach today, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, and so I think that's really important. I think it's really important for the consumer to know that, like, we're working hard for you behind the scenes. That's why this is, $5 instead of $2, And so that's kind of like, my TED Talk, man. I just want to, because Montana has so many beautiful things and such a beautiful terroir that, we'd be silly not to take advantage of, promoting these local products and really focusing on, keeping the ecosystem tight, and not letting too many, purveyors come from outside or import too many things, but we'll get there slowly but surely,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. There's so many amazing little farms just speckled throughout this valley. I think a lot of people just don't even realize. You're driving down East Side Highway, and every couple of miles there's, you got like Winter Kiss Farms and all these other ones out there that are available for, you can buy something there almost year round.
Yeah.
And people tend to think of it only at the farmer's market, but there is an availability of food around here. And if we make a little more conscious effort, to kind of support those people, then there'll be more of it available in the future as well.
Yeah.
We need to support those people. It keeps the money local. It keeps our local economy thriving.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. A good example of that is Sweet Root Farms.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Root, love Sweet Root, man. They're like my fave. And, their farm stand is packed. There's so many good farmers and ranchers, Brian Herbal, Ian and Ellen, just to name a few. It's just, I get blown away by some of the products I taste and how passionate they are about it. And so, for me, if like a good example, we just did a YouTube video with Buck and Dave's, eggs. And I really hope that drives more business to them, and I really hope we can drive more business, because I try to tell people, like, the more we spend money in our own small town, the better it's going to get, the better deals we can offer. But I feel like there's just such a disconnect, right now with, like, people want to shop local and they want to support local, but it doesn't actually get to the finish line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's we want to do it,
Yeah.
but it's easier just to go Super One or something,
exactly.
something like that. But
No.
and I get it. It's totally reasonable, and I think we're starting to kind of wake up in that sense and kind of break through that barrier and realize that those carrots that I got from this farm taste so much better than
like,
something that's been shipped from California.
Yeah, exactly, because of the transit time. And this is what I'm trying to tell people. This is what I try to explain to people. I'm just like, listen, like, that's why we need to focus on eating what's in season. And focusing on preservation during the summer months, so we have food for the winter, because it's almost like old school, but it's just so important. Like, I can't even explain to, like, I can't even articulate how passionate I am about, like, when I see a rancher or a farmer, like, producing food for, like, there's such a deeper story there. Another thing I'll say is, like, especially here in the Bitterroot, like, there are so many small ranchers and farmers, like, they don't really want to do any more volume. They want to keep their stuff, like, nice and tight, and they don't really, not really concerned if you, like, they just want to do what they do to support their family. And it's funny because, like, I'm like, man, this is so good. Like, I'll take your whole harvest, I'll take your whole crop. And it's just funny because, like, for me as a chef, it's like, I feel like, it's important for us to articulate that when we're making our menus and really put them on the pedestal. Like, we just create the dish, but this is the person that's really in charge for, the product, And
Totally.
So, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it, I think, for the rest of my life. The pizza you guys make at Grano is so wonderful.
Awesome.
That dough, that crust is...
Yeah. I really appreciate that, because it was really, we've a lot of people don't know this, but I spent years figuring out what type of pizza that I like, I prefer. and it's Neapolitan.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say this because a lot of people don't understand this. They don't know this, but there's different types of pizza, and so Dave Portnoy, I love you, man, but like he screwed it up for Middle America. It's honest truth. And Domino's, Pizza Hut, Papa John's, I love you too for a certain reason, but that's not pizza. That's like, and that's what everybody compares pizza to.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm like, and so let me just clear the air. There is an artisan style of pizza. And it's funny because what we do at Grano is like a new neo style pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love the most is it's called the cornicione, and it's basically that big crust around. And if you just type in new Neapolitan, you'll see it pop up all over Instagram and stuff like that. But it was aggressive to put that on the menu because of of how long it takes to make, the technique behind it, the Neapolitan style oven. But I was just like, once people get it, they'll get it, and they will come back for it. But in like a good example is in Italy, they eat it with a knife and fork. They don't cut the pizza.
Mm-hmm.
It's a personal pie, and that's how it's supposed to be presented. But I remember, I'm not going to mention it. He's like, "Chef, we can't do that, man. We can't because I wanted to serve the pizza whole, right? And then you just cut it with a knife and fork. But see, here in America, you can't do that, And it's like he's like, we need to cut the pizza, so we do it table side. We do it with the scissors, and that's kind of like kind of our MO. But yeah, it's just I love to hear that because people that travel to Italy and know what Neapolitan style pizza is, or like a good example, like in San Francisco, Delfina is one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Delfina is one of my favorite. But I mean, during COVID, I went down the rabbit hole of making pizzas and sourdough bread, and I ate at every single pizzeria, and there's multiple types of pizzas, and as Grano starts to develop and we get systems in place, we will have more. Like one of my other favorite style pizza is the tavern style, which is basically flat, crispy. It's a tavern style pizza is basically cut in triangles, but it's super thin crust, and there's so much technique behind it, but it's an excellent pie.
Is that kind of like a Flammkuchen?
A what?
Like Flammkuchen out of Alsace? It's kind of this it's like similar to a pizza. Flatbread, crispy, very crispy.
Yeah.
No like puffy crust or anything like that.
Yep, it's similar, but basically there's a really cool technique, and you let the dough kind of dry overnight, and it's like a super thin, crispy.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And I did some research and development on it, but it's just a little too hard to execute. Keep consistent. Another one of my favorite pizzas is the Detroit style pizza. Which is also called Roman style pizza, and that's basically like a tray. So it's pizza was that Pizza d'Italia? Yeah, it comes in you can put it in a tray.
Yeah,
big slices. Yeah. It's almost like a focaccia style pizza.
Yeah.
But it's super crispy edges. That's good. That's like nice and hearty. Like we should be doing that right now. But it's awesome, man. We're doing it, man.
I mean, that's why I traveled to Italy specifically. People think, like, oh, we're going to Italy to see Rome and see monuments and old buildings. Like, no, I went specifically for pizza and pasta.
Yeah, I know it's incredible. It's when we start making more of our pasta and when we start really getting into the pasta program, like it's gonna change the game. Like we have an extruder, by Arco Boleno that's really nice. But what I realized after explaining to everybody, we extrude the pasta in house and we do this, man, nobody really cares, man. Like they weren't as passionate as I was. So I'm like, oh, come on. So,
I care.
Yeah,
it speaks so deeply to my heart. Pizza and pasta are my two favorite things to eat. And pasta, honestly, like the classic Roman dishes, carbonara, aglio, olio, I love to eat it and I love to make it. And it's one of those things where it's like a personal challenge, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because it's so simple when you look at it. It's pasta, for like cacio e pepe, it's pasta, Parmesan cheese, and a little bit of pepper.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
But it's all about the execution and the technique that you have to have that relationship with it and know like, oh, this is what I need to add just a little bit more water. I need to toss it a little more. Okay, it's right, the consistency. We need to plate it right now.
Yep.
And
yeah, that's a great point. We're actually going to shoot that cacio e pepe tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah. So we shot it. We got to reshoot it. But it's just so funny how, I hate to say this, but a lot of people, get so bent out of shape. Like if it's not authentic, this and that. And so it's funny because for me, I always tell people I'm not the one cooking the pasta. So I got to make sure it's easy and executable. But, at Grano, it's funny because when we first came out, I was super authentic. The first menu is a little aggressive, but we started to shift into more of American Italian, and that way, and that way people, they can connect with it. But, I think eventually that little bar that's in the front will have somebody making pasta all day, just, cause I want to do stuffed pasta. I want to do different shapes. I want to do handmade shapes. I really want to dive into, the artisan part of it, but also, that restaurant's brand new. It's, just opened in August. So it's super important. I tell people all the time, like, get the systems in place and make sure you have a good leader and really make sure we do. I would much rather make, spaghetti and meatballs perfectly 1,000 times than try to branch off and do too many things, And so it's funny because we've had a lot of ebbs and flows in that restaurant, but it continues to perform, which is great.
Great.
Especially in this little town. But we did make a very, I'll talk about a failure here. We made a grave mistake by opening a restaurant across the street from our new restaurant. So if you're out there and you're a restaurateur or you're about to open a restaurant, do yourself a favor. Do not open a restaurant right across the street from your new restaurant, because I'll tell you what, that just cannibalized Ember. Like,
really?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know this, but I'll share because I think it's important. In this small town, there's only so much people you can service, and it's just crazy because I'm not gonna lie, Ember during season packed to the brim. We're turning people away, and I'm just like, I'm blown away because usually when you open a restaurant, it's like crickets.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who you are. It was the opposite for us because of the social media push that we had, and we planned into this. So when we were developing Ember, I had a full-time videographer on staff, which arguably was the best decision ever. And, we used Chef Authorized to leverage the Ember social and,
right.
and it was great because we were packed from day one, right? Like, we just turned on the lights and we just went, but, basically, 5 months hardcore, just booked every night, no problem. And then all of a sudden, once Grano opened up, you see the sales start to drop a little bit, right? And it's like, it was scary, but at the same time, it's super important. Like, okay, you could see it, like it was a big drop off. And so that was a lesson that I'll never forget,
Yeah.
But I think, Ember and Grano are two different things. Grano is a little bit more casual. It's I would say upscale casual. And Ember is an experience, and it's usually the battery only lasts 30 minutes on the ZVEs 10.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we're back in
technical failure averted.
Yeah. So I was talking about the license plate. So now that I'm here, I realize that everybody's transplants. I've only met.
No, I know, right? Like you go to the DMV and you look at the map there.
Yeah.
How many of those pins are in California?
Yeah.
There's only so many people here that are actually from here. Well, I mean, nobody's really from anywhere if you really get back to it, right? So
yeah, my favorite is people that came from California like 20 years ago, so it's different for them. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, but it's funny because a lot of people don't know this, but my partners are they're from Montana. They're Bitterrooters. One of them is a third generation Montanan, but they want to be private. They want to remain private, and so like I tell everyone, like, it's nobody else's business, but it's just hard because, like, I thought there was going to be a lot of pushback when we opened the restaurant.
Right.
And, obviously coming out with a fine dining restaurant, especially, I thought there was going to be a lot of pushback, but the reception was amazing. And it's like, I want to make Ember like a local restaurant that is, that you have your birthday, your anniversary, your special occasion, you're coming here. Like,
it needs to be special.
Yes.
That's something that's kind of what has been lacking around here, right? Because I always say, about certain restaurants, well, it's kind of just like eating off the Cisco food truck. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I get it because, it's just hard. It's hard because, like, here's a prime example. Deliveries here in Montana is rough.
Yeah.
Even when we were accepting kitchen equipment and just in general. And so I understand it's really easy to order off the Cisco truck, right? You can just check it off. It'll guaranteed to show up, know? And it's funny because it's super hard. When, like, a good example, when you're in a metropolitan city, you have purveyors and vendors fighting over your business.
Yes.
Here, nope. Like I'm used to, like, my vendor, like, oh, that was that missing on the truck? Okay, cool, no worries. I'll swing it by. I'll bring it before service, chef. No problem. Here, nope, not happening. Nope,
yeah, it's like Comcast customer service almost.
Yeah, dude, yeah. And so, but the good thing is like, I think the overarching, like, thought and summary of that is, like, I was just super pumped. I always, whenever I come out with a new menu, I always have a couple chefs, like, check it for me. And my twin brother, I love him to death, but he's like, it's too pretentious. Like, he's like, you got to dumb it down, man. He's like, it's too pretentious. And I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I'm going to cook for my soul. We're going to do this. Our opening menu was, it was like, it's hard. It was hard because I was like,
Yeah.
It's like,
Here we go.
But then we just went for it. And, and I know that Ember and Grano are going to be, namesake restaurants here in the Bitterroot Valley. And that's what we're pushing for. But I want all the local crowd to know, like, we support local, like, to the best of our ability. And so if somebody says something to me about California or anything like that, like, I just let it brush off my shoulder because I know as a chef, I'm doing the right thing here in the Valley.
But I mean, you're here.
Yeah.
You're here, working here, buying from people that grow things here, and you're also paying people that work here. It's not that you're like 100%. Extracting money out of our economy and sending it to California.
100%. Listen, Chef Toby McCracken, he has been in the Bitterroot. He's the Stock Farm chef for 20. He's been here since 2003. He is the chef at Ember.
Yeah.
His sous chef, Colin, he grew up in Billings and is a Montana chef. It's super important to me. Yannick over at Grano, he is he went to Darby High School. He's a local as well, and it's really important that we support local staff. We train them and we get them to where the level that we need to get them to. But I think also people don't realize we only use Montana beef, right?
Beautiful.
We only use Montana beef, and was super hard to do, right? And shout out to Avalanche Ranch, shout out to Marbled Meats in Billings. But a lot of people don't know this. I went to Billings to go look at the facility and talk to them about the beef. Avalanche Ranch, we have a great partnership with. We bought, Wagyu from them to use specifically at Ember. And, a lot of people don't know that. Like, good example, our chicken, right? Our chicken comes from Living River in Stevensville, and it's we went to go visit the farm. A lot of people don't understand that, but it's like we go to make the connection with our farmers and ranchers, and then we promote that at the restaurant. Yes, it's a little bit more pricey. Yes, but guess what? They're pasture-raised birds. They come out of Stevensville. Like, pay the extra $5. It's worth it.
Yeah,
because I want to keep them in business. And so, I think that's really important. Like, it's different if you come from, out of state and you're doing the wrong thing. But no, I love to hunt. I've got firearms. I respect the Montana lifestyle. You know what I mean? I carry a pocket knife.
Perfect.
It's funny because
fit right in.
I know it's funny because who was I telling? We went to a high school basketball game. Or I think we went to Hamilton High School, and I was blown away that kids walk around with buck knives on their
yeah.
There's no chance you could ever do that where I grew up, because I grew up in cities, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, there's no chance. I mean, metal detector before you go to school is crazy. So it's just funny because a lot of people, I think Montana's a beautiful place. I really do, and I think I'm happy to say that my wife and I call Montana home. Although it's going to take some time to get everything set up properly and functioning. But I'm telling you right now, it's a beautiful thing, to really, really focus on something you're super passionate about. And, it's just like when you handed me your card and you said, hey, I do a podcast, like, I'd love to have you on. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I want to support you. I want anything I can do. As your neighbor, I should say, is, it's just an important piece of the puzzle because we all help each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's super important, man. Yeah.
Right on. Well, we're about 45 minutes. I think it's probably a good spot to
excellent
to stop for now. I know you got to get going, but I appreciate you coming in. This has been awesome. I'm excited for the future of your endeavors. And one thing before we go.
Yeah, no worries.
I would like to just pass along a little maybe idea. I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition, but one thing that I would love to see in this town is a nice place to go for breakfast or brunch that's open on Sunday.
Oh yeah, don't worry. We got it we're gonna do brunch at Ember on Sundays.
Oh nice. Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, so Chef Toby and I are working on a plan because there's such a missing gap.
Yes.
I would love to do a breakfast restaurant. I would love to do that, but I think more before that, and not to shoot down your idea, but before that, I want an artisan bakery. Like I want to use Montana wheat, and I want to make I love laminated doughs. I love, I love it all, man.
That was my favorite station. When I was working at a bakery.
So I think a little artisan bakery in downtown Hamilton would be great. I think a breakfast spot would be really good. That's just it's just like a really. I'll be honest, I like the Frontier Cafe in where's it at? I think it's
in just outside of Steve. Yeah, just north of the Y there.
Yep.
I mean, it's good. It's so far away though. It's like
I know.
I want to take my grandma out to breakfast after we get after we're done with church, right? And we only have a couple of choices. We got BJ's, the coffee cup, or the Hanger Cafe, and it's like, I mean, it's nice. It's a good experience, but I really, something that also utilizes local ingredients and that sort of thing.
So the Ember brunch is going to be a little bit extravagant. I want to go really like I want to go really big, and I'm trying to like back up a little bit, but I want it to be epic.
Sure.
And and because I think it's worth it. I think after church with your family, we do like 60 people, but it's just super nice. We're using local eggs, we're using cured bacon, like we're doing it really good. And I think if we have a really good system in place and it works out, we'll probably do it first Saturday and Sunday.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because Ember's a really nice look and feel, and we've been talking. People have been pushing for brunch, like
I could imagine,
hardcore. Like, and we planned on it when we were doing the restaurant. Like, we can't just be a dinner only restaurant. I want to make sure we're making money, in other ways, and and I think brunch is going to be the path of least resistance. And so yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'll let you know when we launch it.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
That'd be cool.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Cool.
I appreciate
pleasure,
you coming
man.
in, taking the time.
It's awesome.
And I'd love to have you back on again sometime.
Yeah, we'll do a round two.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody.